Major setback on Erik ten Hag's future. Could Jadon Sancho end up returning to Manchester United? And all incoming transfers apparently put on hold. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's show. And if this is your first time watching, please subscribe to the channel as well. I'll be live throughout the whole of the transfer window with a video in the morning, a video in the evening, and if anything breaks during the day, I do go live as well. So make sure you get involved here on Daily Red Devil. Right. Let's start the show off by talking about Jadon Sancho then, shall we? Because everyone seems to have a different opinion on Sancho. Some people want him back, some people don't want him back, and some people don't know. So if you are watching the video live, you can get involved in the poll. The question is simple. Should Jadon Sancho come back to Manchester United? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section as well. Either say Sancho back or Sancho leave. Let me know your thoughts. Me personally, I think if Erik ten Hag stays as the manager, Jadon Sancho won't come back. But if Erik ten Hag gets sacked, then I reckon INEOS will bring him back, to be honest. It makes sense. He's gone to Dortmund. He's done okay. He's done relatively well. He's about to play in a Champions League final against Real Madrid tomorrow. We are struggling in the wing positions. We need to sign a new winger. The story's kind of already written itself, hasn't it? Obviously, he disgraced the club. He refused to play and all the rest of it. Some people say he didn't refuse to play, but in my opinion, not apologising when he should have apologised is effectively the same, isn't it? And Benny McCarthy, the striker coach, actually explained what has happened. So this is really interesting. So Benny McCarthy has said this. This is about Erik ten Hag and Jadon Sancho's fallout. Benny says, the manager has a strong character. Jadon thought he was not at fault, that he had done nothing wrong. He didn't see why he had to apologise. Sometimes we must apologise because a player will never win against a manager. So that was what Benny McCarthy said. And then Benny also said, I spoke to Erik ten Hag and told him that Jadon thinks that if he apologises, he will be seen as someone who doesn't train hard and that everything that has been said against him was true. The manager said all he wanted was an apology. So that's the situation there, you know. Jadon Sancho effectively didn't apologise because he felt that it would make him look guilty. Now, I'm not being funny, but we've heard similar stories at Man City, similar stories when he was in the England squad, and similar stories at Dortmund before he came to Man United. So every club that Jadon Sancho's ever played for, there's been similar stories about him being lazy, turning up late, not having the right attitude. So it's not like he's got this perfect image around him of this hard worker who gives 150% every game. And suddenly Erik ten Hag out of nowhere has said that he was lazy and wasn't turning up to training and stuff. Like, people already thought of him like that, to be honest, didn't they? So I don't really understand Jadon Sancho's stance. I think, if anything, it's an attitude problem, to be honest. Because, you know, people already had the impression that he was like that anyway. So I don't really get that. But to go back to the point of will he come back or not, as I said, I think if Erik ten Hag stays, I think the likelihood of him coming back is very small. But I think if Erik ten Hag goes, INEOS will probably bring him back, to be honest. I would be very, very surprised. But I personally don't want Jadon Sancho to come back. I think he's a good player, but I just think that we need to instill an elite mentality. And I don't think Jadon Sancho has an elite mentality, to be honest. I think, you know, he's gone off to Dortmund and he doesn't have all the media around him. He's not as big of a name. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you're at Man United, everybody's talking about you constantly. Like, how often are people talking about Jadon Sancho? The only time I've heard Sancho's name was when he played against PSG in that Champions League game. I've not heard anything else about him in the 6 months he's been on loan. Whereas literally at Man United, people are talking about him constantly. Every day there'll be a story about Jadon Sancho. So I think, you know, it's good for him that he's gone off to Dortmund and he's gone under the radar. He's able to play his football. I still don't think he's been amazing. I think he's been okay from what I've seen of him. But in relation to him coming back, there's a story that broke this morning from a very reliable journalist saying that Manchester United have not given up on bringing Jadon Sancho back. It says, while his United future appears non-existent under Erik ten Hag, the ongoing uncertainty over the manager's position could open up for a path for Sancho to return. That's exactly what I was just saying. It says Jadon Sancho will likely return in the event of United firing Erik ten Hag. It says to underline United's commitment to Sancho, former head of football operations John Murter and Matt Hargreaves, the director of player negotiations, visited him in Dortmund in March to maintain contact and gauge how he's getting on in Germany. So the black and white of it is this. If Erik ten Hag is sacked, Jadon Sancho will most likely come back. And part of INEOS's decision to sack Erik ten Hag, if they do decide to do that, will be that they'll say, we've got Jadon Sancho playing in Dortmund. We think Jadon Sancho's world class. And if we sack Erik ten Hag, he can come back. That will be part of it, because he's not going to come back under Erik ten Hag. It's just not going to work. Even if he apologises, I'm sure the same issue will just keep happening over and over again. There's always going to be that friction between the player and the manager. And, in a club that's been so toxic for the last decade, we need a bit of harmony. And Erik ten Hag and Jadon Sancho working together is not going to be harmony. It's going to cause more problems than it's worth. So we'll obviously wait and see what happens with that one. But yeah, it is quite a black and white situation. If Jadon Sancho comes back to Manchester United, it will be because Erik ten Hag's left. If Jadon Sancho doesn't come back to Manchester United, it will be because Erik ten Hag is still here. So I'll keep you updated on that one. Everyone who's just joined the video in the last couple of seconds, please smash a like. Let's go for 200 likes on today's show. There's way more than 200 of you watching. So if everybody goes and likes the video right now, we will hit our likes target, which would be really, really appreciated. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel as well. I'm going to be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. I'll have a show for you in the morning, a show for you in the evening. And if anything breaks during the day, I go live right away as well. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, bottom right-hand corner, and get involved in the channel. Right. Let's move on from Jadon Sancho because I feel like we spoke about him so much over the last 6 months. So Jadon Sancho will come back if Erik ten Hag's sacked. That's the general gist of it. And I could see that happening, to be honest. But anyway, let's move on from that. Right, let's talk a little bit about Jose Mourinho. Just quickly, entertain me here. Jose Mourinho is about to be appointed as the Fenerbahce manager. That's been confirmed by Fabrizio Romano and Di Marzio over in Italy. So I like Jose. He's a character. I wouldn't ever want him to come back to Manchester United. Apparently, he was sniffing around the job a couple of months ago when it looked like Erik ten Hag was going to be sacked. Mourinho is one of the best managers in my lifetime that I've seen. I think he's an absolute legend of the game. I loved him as the manager at Man United. Obviously, it didn't work out for various reasons. Effectively, the club sided with the players over the manager, That was the gist of it. They sided with Pogba over Mourinho. They didn't get the players he wanted and it didn't work. But he is a manager that I like. So all the best to Jose Mourinho. He's about to be announced as the new Fenerbahce manager. I just thought that would throw that in, obviously, with him being an ex-Manchester United manager. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Mr. L says, I thought we were trying to get rid of player power. I thought that was part of the project. Mate, I'm going to be honest, right? I know we're very early into the INEOS project, but I don't really know what the INEOS project is at this point, if I'm being completely honest. Like, we haven't been told anything. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying that at this moment in time, we've not really been communicated anything, have we? We've been told that they're going to bring the Manchester back to Manchester United. We've been told that, they want to make us competitive again. But we haven't seen or been told how that's exactly going to happen yet. They're saying they don't want to sign big players. They're saying they don't want to spend loads of money. They're saying they don't want to buy players over the age of 25. I mean, okay, but is that going to get us to catch up with Man City? I don't think so, personally. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens. I think, obviously, you've got to back INEOS. There's no reason why we shouldn't back INEOS at this point. Obviously, if they sack Erik ten Hag, that will be a point where we can have that conversation, whether we're doubting them. But as it stands at the moment, you've got to back INEOS. You've got to hope and pray that they know what they're doing, and hope and pray that whatever it is they're doing works. Because at the moment, it is a bit of a guess, really, isn't it? But yeah, moving over to potential signings. So it's a bit frustrating, I'm going to be honest with you guys, around the signings, because the narrative that we're getting from the club over the last kind of 24 hours is that effectively, until they decide what's happening with Erik ten Hag, kind of transfers are being put on hold, because obviously Erik ten Hag will have involvement in transfers because that's part of his contract. Whereas if they get rid of him and get a new manager, obviously Erik ten Hag won't be here. So it's difficult. And I think that's why a lot of the Man United fan base are frustrated, because we need to sell probably 10 to 15 players this summer. And we need to bring in my opinion, 3 or 4 first team starting players and then probably another 3 or 4 bench players, you know? So we've got an incredible amount of business that we need to do this summer. And the fact that we're just effectively sat on our hands at the moment when, you know, deals are happening. Newcastle are nearly on the brink of signing Tosin, the centre-back, who we want as a free agent. Arsenal are apparently in talks to sign Benjamin Sesko. Like, a lot of the players we've been linked to are already in talks with other clubs now. And from what I'm hearing, Man United are kind of just putting a stop on all of these talks until we know exactly what's going on with the manager, which obviously makes sense, you know? It obviously makes sense. But it's just a bit annoying, and I just don't understand why it's taking this long. Surely they've had these conversations about Erik ten Hag for months before now. You know? Like, we've been in the same position for the last 2 or 3 months, you know? If anything, it's got better in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So either they want him to go or they don't. And if they're, you know, flip-flopping between we want him to go, we want him to stay, we want him to go, we want him to stay, then, like, I don't know what to say if that's the situation, you know? They've had plenty of time to decide whether Erik ten Hag's the right man for their project. You know, you can even put the results aside almost, because there'll be loads of things you have to consider with a manager. Do they like his talent ID? Do they like the way he promotes youth? Do they like his style of football, etc., etc., etc.? And if all of those things align with them, then keep him. If they don't, then get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, but in relation to Ten Hag, apparently it doesn't look like we're going to find out this week now. Apparently it looks like it's going to be towards the end of next week. And me being completely honest, giving my reaction to this news, I personally think that INEOS are just waiting for the dust to settle off the FA Cup win, and then they're going to sack him. I don't know. I just feel like that's... Why else would they wait this long? If they wanted to keep him, why else would they wait this long? Now, if I'm going to play devil's advocate, there are some people who are saying that that apparently Erik ten Hag and INEOS are negotiating a new contract with reduced authority, i.e. he doesn't have involvement in the transfers and stuff, and that's why it's taking longer. And they're going to announce that, you know, he's signed a new contract for 2 years or whatever, and he's going to be the head coach opposed to the manager. Now, that could be what's happening. Yeah, it's difficult. Very, very difficult. I think the likelihood of Erik ten Hag staying as in the current format is very small. I think it's whether Erik ten Hag's willing to let some of his responsibility and authority go. I think that's probably where the stumbling block is. They probably said to him, you know what, Erik, we're interested in keeping you, but we don't want you to be involved in the transfers, you know, blah, 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 blah. Are you happy with this? And maybe he's not. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But it is getting quite frustrating. It's dragging on and on and on and on. You've obviously got to remember that the Euro starts in like 2 weeks today, I think it is. On the 14th. Yeah, 2 weeks today. So, you know, if we don't announce this until the end of next week, right? You've effectively got 1 week then to start having conversations with players' agents, because players aren't going to want to be, you know, linked to clubs during the Euros. Their focus is always going to be on a major tournament. And the Euros goes on for a month. So it might end up being that we don't have anybody kind of signing until mid-July, late July. And then the season starts, I think, a week after. So they've got to be very, very careful, because other clubs around us are starting to do deals. They are starting to do business. They're starting to line things up. And if we sit on our hands, like we do every single transfer window, then I think we're going to be massively behind the rest, you know? It's not at like a really crucial point yet, but it's getting towards that point that, you know, if we're sat here this time next week still talking about Erik ten Hag, I think that's going to be a big problem. But we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Everybody who's just joined the live video, please do me a favour and smash a like if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel as well. I'm going to read out some of your comments in a minute. Give me 1 second. One second, everyone. Yeah, so in short, we're all in the same situation here. We're all waiting to find out what's going on. It's effectively going to be either option 1, they sack him, or option 2, they keep him on a new contract, but his roles change. And you know what, to be honest with you, I would have absolutely no issue with him staying with his roles changed, because I think that's what should happen anyway. I don't think he should be involved in the I don't think he should be involved in the transfers. I don't think he should have the final say on transfers. I think his job should be to coach the team. And that's pretty much it, because we should have better people than Erik ten Hag working for Man United to identify talent. Like, Pep Guardiola doesn't sign the players at City. Jurgen Klopp doesn't sign the players at Liverpool. Ancelotti doesn't sign the players at Real Madrid. Like, why at Man United is Erik ten Hag signing the players? It doesn't make any sense. So I agree with that entirely. And my preference is Erik ten Hag to stay. Give him maybe a 2-year contract and say, Erik, we want you to stay, but you're not going to have any say in the signings anymore. You can have like some involvement, but you're not just going to, tell us to sign any old player from the Eredivisie who you used to coach 6 years ago. Like that needs to stop, because we've been stung quite a few times by going down that model. Mason Mount's an example, isn't it? And Anthony's another example. Both players who had played in the Eredivisie in the past, and both players who Erik ten Hag really liked. I think we spent 100 million on Anthony and 60 million on Mason Mount. 160 million pounds wasted. Euros, sorry. Absolutely wasted. So, yeah, that's my preference anyway. But it'll be interesting to see what you guys have to say about that. Which way do you think this story's going to go? Do you think Erik ten Hag will stay? Do you think he'll go? Let's see what people in the chat are saying today. Amnat says, do you really think our business will improve this summer? The thing is, right, we until INEOS prove us that it isn't going to be better, then I think we've got to try and stay positive. I think there is a lot of worry. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of frustration. And I agree with all of that. But we've got to give INEOS a chance. We've got to give them a chance. Yeah, we just have to hope and pray that they're better than the Glazers, at the very, very least. And I think they will be. I think they've shown signs so far that, bringing in Omar Barada, bringing in Jason Wilcox, and bringing in Dan Ashworth, like, that's an improvement, 100%. But all of those things are great. We just need to see a ruthlessness in clearing out the squad. And if that happens, I think the fan mood around Manchester United will be a lot higher. Whereas at the moment, I feel like everybody thinks they're going to sack Erik ten Hag, and then, Harry Maguire is going to be our starting centre-back next season. I think that's unlikely, but obviously I don't know. At the moment, I'm trying to stay positive. At the moment, I'm trying to, see the light at the end of the tunnel and not be too negative about it all, because otherwise you just does your head in, doesn't it? But yeah, let me know what's your mood like at the moment as a Man United fan. We should be all really happy. We've just won the FA Cup a couple of weeks ago, or like last weekend, sorry. We've just won the FA Cup. We should be all really happy, but it seems like there's still a lot of worry in the fan base. But let me know what you guys think. How are you feeling at the moment? Let me know. Yeah, I just want some clarity on the manager. That's the most important thing for me. I just really want to know what's going on with the manager, and I really want to see a plan for next season. Sorry, for the summer and for next season. There's some breaking news coming out here, actually. I mean, this doesn't... So apparently Man United are about to sign Arsenal's physio, Jordan Rees. Now, people are probably thinking, like, why does that matter? But we signed Arsenal's doctor last summer, and we had the most injuries we've ever had, and I think, in the last 10 years. And now we're going to go and sign another physio doctor from the same club. I don't know. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Lab says, I really can't see anyone out there better than Erik ten Hag. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, but INEOS clearly don't agree with us today. They're clearly undecided. Otherwise, they would have announced it by now, unless they're negotiating a new contract. But I feel like if they were negotiating a new contract, it would have been leaked somewhere. Like, the story is still that nobody knows what's happening and everyone's waiting for INEOS to announce what's going on. And I think that makes me feel like uncertainty, Yeah, I'm going to wrap the video up here, though, guys. Thank you to everyone who's joined me on the show this evening. I will be back at 6 o'clock UK time. And if anything breaks during the day, I will go live as well. If you have enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel as well. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a lovely day, everybody, and I'll speak to you all at 6 p.m. UK time.